to get me where I am right now. People see me now and be like, oh, well, you're lucky. Fuck you. This took work.
Right.
A lot of fucking work, more than most people are willing to make for me to get where I am.
Right.
And a lot of failing. That's the other thing.
You don't even like this girl. Like, yeah, she's fine, but you don't.
Post-nut clarity.
Post-nut clarity is real, bro. It's one of the realest things on earth.
Welcome to the Warrior's Way Home podcast.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Warrior's Way Home podcast, where we are here to help put the fight back into men, breaking down what it means to be masculine and also figure out what it means to each other, to ourselves, and the best way to put our masculinity out into the world to make sure that we are being the best men possible.
Absolutely. I'm Travis.
My name is Edmund. And welcome back. Today, we're going to be going over the 21 principles, not all 21, but the 21 principles of the Dokkodo, brought to us by Miyamoto Musashi, a very famous samurai. Now, whether he was an actual fictitious person or somebody or
a combination of multiple people.
Yeah, or a combination of multiple people and backgrounds. It's kind of neither here nor there, but he's known as being a famous swordsman throughout Japan during his era, and also a famous writer. Such books as the Book of Five Rings, one of my personal favorites, and like we said, the Dokkodo. So with these 21 principles, what it goes over is what we would call kind of living a life of being alone. Sorry, go ahead.
Living principles.
Principles.
It's things that we can take away from old teachings, but put it into our new lives. And, a lot of the things that, were taught back then still have a lot of validity now. They still have a purpose. They still have a place.
Right.
And, some of the, like we talked about in the last podcast we did, the warrior back then wasn't the way we think of warrior now, where it's just the fighting aspect or it's just, going to war. It was so much about discipline, self-development. They did art. They did, they were, very major writers, but they really focused in on philosophy.
Right.
That spiritual side of things. It's like they wanted to be well-rounded, not just warriors, but they wanted to be well-rounded men.
Right.
Is what they wanted to be. And, some of these principles will help you and, things we use to help us try and develop ourselves as well-rounded men.
Right. So the whole focus of this podcast is to be a well-rounded man. Probably should have led with that. It's something that there's so much on either side of the spectrum, whether, it's kind of like that soft boy or the too hard man kind of thing. We're looking for that middle path so we can be the best men that we can be and also be the best leaders we can be, not only for others, but for ourselves.
Sure. So today we're going to go over 3 of the first teachings of the Dokkodo. Like you're saying, there's 21 in total. We're going to break it up and probably do about 3 per episode throughout some of the podcasts, mixed in there with a few other things, but give you bite-sized pieces, things that you can take away. And the most importantly is giving you things that you can take away and use in your life, not just theories, but things you can actually, right after this podcast, go and implement in your life and actually use to make yourself more of that well-rounded man.
Absolutely.
All right. So our first one of the Dokkodo is accept everything just as it is.
Yeah. So the world is full of problems and things that we cannot control, that we can't change. There's no lasting peace when we attach to our own ideas of what things should be. So I'm personally kind of going through something like that where, you want everybody does that, right? You want your life to be going in a certain direction at a certain time to what you think is the proper timeline for it. But what's that old quote that man makes a plan and God laughs? Things don't really always go according to plan, to the things that we want them to. But we have to be okay with that. We have to be okay with taking things as they are. And once we take away the good or bad aspect of it, it becomes more manageable. We can then put our own energy into it and say, okay, if this is the problem, let me find a solution. What's the best way to go about this? You sit, you reflect on it, you make a plan. Making a plan is definitely one of my top things that I do and that I try to implement as things kind of come about. Because once you start to get in that panic mode, it becomes harder to deal with, right? When you let your emotions kind of run your reactions to things, it becomes harder to psychologically kind of figure out and say, okay, whatever is going on right now, there's an easier way to deal with it, kind of go with the flow. But then as you're flowing with it, that answer will flow to you too. Don't get caught up in the problem. Try to get to the solution, but you have to kind of go through it before you kind of figure that out.
Definitely, for sure. So my perspective on it is, very, very similar to yours. You have to know where you are right now. You have to accept that you can't pick the weeds you ignore.
Right.
You can't just, as famous, Tony Robbins said, you can't just go in your garden and be like, there are no weeds, there are no weeds, there are no weeds. You got to deal with the fucking weeds.
Right. Right.
This is like, you have to accept the circumstances that you find yourself in at this moment. Because if you don't do that, you won't actually be able to do anything about it. It's like if you just are ignoring your problems and the things you have going on, your circumstances, no matter what that might be, it could be health wise. If you are ignoring your health issues and you never actually, go and check into that and see what's going on with you, then you're just guessing. Right. You're just making guesses. Like, is it heartburn or is it heart attack?
Right.
These are two very big different things.
Right.
And you handle them in two very different ways.
They probably feel different too.
It's like, but in a lot of cases, a lot of guys, especially, we're not great about this, where we have, pains or aches or different things like that go on, and we kind of ignore it, like, oh, it's not that big a deal. And then come to find out later on that it's compiled and you could have addressed it sooner. Right. And actually had a better result than, waiting forever until it became a really big issue that you can't ignore anymore. Right. That's a big thing is, we can tend to ignore those things because we're not willing to address who we are right now, where we are at that moment. Like I said, whether it be health, finances, in order for you to know where you want to go, you have to know where you are right now. Right. It's like, how do you plan on getting to $1 million if you don't know that you're $200,000 in debt? Right. It's like, you can't really make a plan. Right. If you don't know, it's like, I always give the example is like, if you were to drive from California to New York, and you just start heading east, it's like, doesn't mean you're going to hit New York. Right. You might end up in Florida. Right. It's like, you have to have that roadmap. Where am I right now? It's like, am I near Mexico or am I up near Oregon? Right. It's like, that's based off of that is going to detail how I want to get to where I'm going. But I have to know where I'm starting. Right. I have to know where I am, and I have to accept it for what it is right now. Don't make it worse. Right. Than what it is. Right. But don't, be so naive that you think it's so much better than what it is also. You got to accept and know where you're at right now. That way you can make a plan moving forward in your life.
Right. I like that example of the garden because I heard something in, I could listen to like a lot of intellectual lectures and stuff like that, and philosophy lectures. And they said that when you take away that good or bad from whatever the situation is, when you're thinking about a garden, there are no gardens without weeds. And you can pluck them, but it's more important to just realize that weeds are a part of the garden. Problems are a part of life. Yes. If we're not even going to be able to solve anything if we don't realize that there is a problem. And honestly, as a man, our job is to be a problem solver. But what is it? It was a quote that was saying that the measure of a successful life is how successfully you deal with the problems as you're kind of moving along. So it's never going to be all peachy keen for a lot of us. You know what I mean? Like, unless as long as you're not in like a war-torn area is one of the examples that I'm hearing a lot of is as long as you have the ability to sit down and reflect on whatever your issue is, you then have a chance to fix it. Yeah. There's never going to be no problems. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's the problem of, damn, I'm broke, I ain't got no money, or I don't know where to put all my money. You know what I'm saying? A problem is a problem. Some problems are better to have, but your main point or your main goal is to have to work through whatever the first problem is, get over that mountain, and then move on to the next one, because there's always going to be something.
Yeah, and some people will be like, I don't like to look at anything as a problem. It's like there's a difference between being I don't want to be a pessimist. It's like, there's a difference between being an optimist and just being delusional. Yeah. They're two very different things. It's like, you can be an optimist, even in the worst situations, war-torn areas or whatever it may be, you can always find that silver lining. You can always find a plus in that, even in any negative. There's always an opposite of that. Any negative has a positive. There always is. Right. The fact that you're still walking around alive, the fact that you're still sitting here breathing, it can be a positive. But at the same time, you have to be aware of the circumstances, because you can't be in that war zone and be like, there's no war. Right. That wasn't a bomb that just dropped right next to me. Right. Oh, then a peaceful in a garden is like, no, that's not how that works.
Then that's just being blind.
One of the biggest laws, that we go by is like, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Right. So absolutely, that's a big piece of that. Okay. So our next one from the Dokkodo, number 2 is do not seek pleasure for its own sake.
Right. Right. So pleasure without perspective is a dangerous thing, but the pleasure that comes from living a meaningful life is much more likely to last and is sweeter to savor. So when we talk about curbing our vices, let's say this is the main thing that kind of pulls to me is that a lot. I know we're in a excuse me. I know we're in a time where a lot of people are trying to use escapism. They're using their vices as a way to kind of negate that, like we were saying before. They don't want to realize what their circumstances are.
Yeah.
So they go out and smoke and drink and party or have a lot of sex or
porn is a huge one.
Porn is a major one, excessive masturbation, man or woman. People are, especially like drug use and stuff like that in combination. It's never just the one thing. More, I would say people that that indulge in more than one vice are like trying to find that peace or fulfillment outside of themselves. They don't want to deal with their own problems. They don't want to look inward. They don't want the pain that kind of comes with dealing with your problems, whether you're going to therapy or just kind of sitting and journaling. It's that overindulgence that's become the problem. We're not saying don't do these things. I mean, it is damaging in the long run, but just understand that what you're using these things for. If you're excessively drinking and excessively smoking and all these other things, you're pulling that energy away from the solution, like we're saying. Now, I love to have a drink every now and again. That's fine. But when you're doing it to escape, that's when it becomes a problem. So to just go out and drink on a Friday or a Saturday night just for the sake of drinking can be more detrimental than maybe taking that time or that energy to look into your problems. And I know it's hard. It's hard for people to just want to sit down and say, hey, what's my issue? What is it that I can be doing better? Some people would rather just run from it. And honestly, society has it to where, it's easy for me to say, hey, after work, you want to go get a job? I remember a quick example. I used to work at a bank, and in my department, it was a toxic work environment. Okay. So me and my whole squad, we would go out and go get drinks like almost every other day. Now, I know it wasn't something that was beneficial, but it felt good. It was good to, be able to hang out with people, especially after the pandemic, because, it's 2023. We're still, a lot of people are still reeling from the damages of having to be isolated and not having that opportunity to go out and spend time with one another. And camaraderie is good. It is good to make connections with people, either in your office or your house or your neighborhood, and to be in these friend groups. But what are you guys doing? Is it being beneficial? Are you guys like helping each other, or are you just helping each other escape? Are you doing something that's more or less positive, or are you just using it to not have to go home at the end of the day? Because when you go home, for a lot of us, we're alone, and when we're alone is when we start to do these self-damaging things like excessively watch pornography, or just. For some people, beating on their spouses or just being hateful.
Some guys wish they were alone when they go home.
Exactly. Or if you have kids, what I'm saying, you can't give the love and support that you need to your kids because you don't have it yourself. So it's realizing that whatever we're doing to seek pleasure, it can be okay in small doses, but not to overindulge.
My biggest thing is I think you have to earn your pleasure. I think you have to earn the reward. That's the biggest thing. I think a lot of what's going on today, what's being pushed today, is things you don't have to earn. You don't have to you don't have to earn anything when you just cut on the video game and just start playing and be sitting there for hours on end.
Right.
Or even with the the virtual reality now they have going on, it's like you don't have to earn these things. It's like you almost feel like, oh well, I'm rated number 10 in the country on this game. It's like, yeah, that's cool, man. But in your reality, what are you earning? It's like, it's like you're puffing out your chest because you're number 10 in in the country. It's like, but
I killed the most non-realistic zombies.
Yes, but in
period.
But in reality, it's like, what have you really earned? The way you feel in reality. It's like, for example, the body. It's like having a six pack is great. It's amazing. First time I got mine, I got so hyped. I was like, you're not gonna be able to keep a t-shirt on.
You bragging now? Like, I ain't got a six pack.
Hey, but I had to earn it though. I didn't for years. For years, I've seen myself be like, "Fuck you, man. You ass." It's like, but I was like, "But you just wait. Until I get mine." It's like I'm gonna be shirtless all the time.
Right.
It's like all these YouTubers.
Right.
It's like
Can't wait.
Never wearing a shirt.
Right.
But I realized when I got it, I was like, yeah, this is cool. But what I earned on the way to get that meant so much more.
Right.
So I got the reward from it. I got to see six pack and look in the mirror like, yeah, all right, yeah. But what I had to do to earn that though, it made it to where it's like, and the funny part is like, even when I got it, I was like, this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like kind of on to the next thing.
Right.
It wasn't like, this amazing, huge thing, that it was. And even with the pleasure thing, it's like, you should have to earn that as a man. It's like, as a man, you don't just get given things. You have to earn who
especially women.
You have to earn who and it's, a lot has been said about, men and women. It's like, and men have to create their value. Women become valuable.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, the women, there's even a whole process in becoming a woman. It's like, at what point a girl goes from being a girl to a woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, she starts period, all these different things like that. But now there's not that. When does a man become a man?
Mm-hmm.
It's like before it was like 13 or something like that. But what did we have to do now to become men? There's not a lot of requirements now to be able to call yourself a man or a high value man or whatever these things are. There's not a lot of requirements you don't have to earn that title in a lot of cases. I can cut on, my camera and call myself a high value man all day long and then cut the camera off and go back to my box in the alley.
Right.
And I'm not achieving anything. I'm sitting here, boozing and, shooting up, but I'm calling myself a high value man because I can look a certain type of way to people. I don't actually have to earn that. Mm-hmm. But when you actually really earn that, then you value the reward so much more.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, when, for instance, for example, I do, people are like, oh, you must not eat anything. I love fucking chocolate. Mm-hmm. Absolutely fucking love it. It's like, but do I eat it all the time? No. Right. Do I keep it in my house all the time? No.
Right.
I buy one chocolate bar once a week on Fridays. After my whole week is over, after I've done all the work to put into, I still have Saturday to work.
You're like, my precious.
But yeah, Friday night, I know when I'm at my head, when I'm on my way home, it's like, yeah, I'm going to get that chocolate bar. I'm going to eat some of it, throughout this weekend, I'm going to eat that. Because I've earned it. But if I haven't gone to the gym, if I haven't worked, if I haven't done anything here, if I haven't trained anybody or done my sessions or anything like that, or did my work, I don't get that.
Right.
You don't get like, I will literally talk to myself. It's like, why you buying that? You didn't earn that.
Right.
What makes you think you get that? You didn't even work out this week, bro.
Right.
It's like, you didn't go hard.
Right.
It's like, what makes you think how did you earn that? You didn't earn that. Put that shit down.
Right.
Put it down.
And some people don't want to have that conversation with themselves because they're just using whatever it is they like. And I can agree with that because I know people who, they eat their feelings pretty much. Like that's how they kind of get over it. But then you realize like, okay, one, it's only for a short window. You're not going to feel fulfilled that entire time. You're going to go back to the kitchen when those feelings start coming back up.
That's the escape you talked about. It's the difference between the reward and escape are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
Don't mistake your escaping as a reward. You playing video games for 4 days straight is not a fucking reward.
Right.
That's an escape. Let's just be real. That's it's like let's be honest about this. You watching porn because you can't talk to women is not a reward. That's an escape.
Right.
Is like, are you valuable enough to actually get these women? Mm-hmm. Are you valuable enough to actually go and get these things that you want?
Right.
Are you actually, have you earned, to buy that new car, to, get that, whatever it may be? Have you earned the right to do that? Have you earned the right to call yourself a high value man? Whatever that may mean to you. Have you actually earned that right?
So you had brought that up where as far as like men that are, there's not as much you need to do to be considered a high value man. I actually disagree.
I don't think that it's not that you have any. What I mean is, guys, there's not a set requirement like you have to do this thing in order to be able to call yourself that. Now guys are just calling themselves this without actually having gone and done shit.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
It's like
it's more ego.
Yeah. Like, as a man, you actually have to build yourself up to something. It's like my thing is like, do your results show me?
Yeah.
Do your results in life show me who you are as a man?
Right.
Because if you're, that's we have a board as a man. It's like, there is a scoreboard as a man. It's like, where are you winning? Are you winning? It's like, and if you're not, don't be calling yourself a high value man. It's like, don't start that bullshit. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. One, don't be lying to yourself. Okay.
It's like, as long as you're not chasing thoughts.
I'm not going to call myself a fit guy. I didn't call myself a fit guy I'm 5'6". When I was, 210 pounds and I couldn't run around my school, but I was yoked out like this. I didn't call myself fit. No, I was big, but I wasn't fit.
Right.
So I'm not gonna lie to myself and call myself fit when I know I'm huffing and puffing trying to run.
Right.
It's
Right.
like absolutely not. I'm not fit. No, I was like I had a, this is like so. I had to be real with myself. I had to, and it goes back to that first one. I had to know. I had to accept where I was,
Right.
in order to get me where I am right now. People see me now and be like, "Oh, well, you're lucky." Fuck you. This took work.
Right.
A lot of fucking work, more than most people are willing to make for me to get where I am.
Right.
And a lot of failing. That's the other thing.
I would say with that scoreboard, that's a good point as well, where there is a requirement for you to be able to call yourself a man, and people aren't doing the work necessarily all the time to do that. But also keep in mind that board gets erased every day.
Oh yeah.
Every day. You know what I'm saying? You can provide and you can cook a meal and you can do all these things. You can pay the bills. Yeah, you did that yesterday though. What have you done for me lately? You know what I'm saying? There's always going to be new requirements for you to be either high value man, and also people are always watching you. And it's not just people in your house. It's the people. It's everybody. If you consider yourself a man, there is somebody watching you to figure out, do you really fit those requirements of manhood? You know what I'm saying? With there are, but you know what? You shouldn't even follow the requirements of society. You should be following your own requirements. If you consider yourself a high value man, write that down. What is that like for you to be a high value man? Why is it? And then audit that list on a daily basis or a monthly basis or whatever it takes for you to be consistent in your approach. But if you saw my whiteboard at home, bro, you think I was a madman. There's like formulas and lists and shit I want to do, and get this done by this week and pay this and all that stuff. And there's lots of little boxes on there, and sometimes it can be a little daunting, but none of them ever get checked all the time. And that's something that I had to realize within myself, is that this is a process. There's always going to be something else you can do. There's always going to be another thing that has to be done. You have to take your time with it, because otherwise you're going to get burnt out. But I don't use terms like high value man for myself, because first of all, I'm not trying to pump myself up. I'm a man.
Because it's
no, for sure.
Buzz term now. It's
for sure.
Value man and beta and all these other.
No, for sure.
All these other things.
But that's the perspective you have to come at it by. You know what I'm saying? You have to start there. You have to start with the popular terms and the trends, because then you can break those down and figure out, okay, if you're looking for high value man content, hopefully we pop up at some point so you can figure out, okay, this is everybody else's opinion. This is my opinion, because if you're following the crowd, ultimately you are not doing what a man is supposed to do. You are supposed to be, you can work with society, you can work with your community, but you should be only really following your own values anyway.
And there are some basic requirements as a man.
Right.
It's like there's some, like if you're married and you have kids, your responsibility as a man is to take care of your family.
Right.
Financially now, and protective wise.
Right.
It's like those are baseline requirements as a man. And we move on. There's Chris Rock had I love this when he was talking about it in his comedy sketch, not the last one where we were talking about Will Smith, but the other one.
Right.
But he said only women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally.
Right.
It's like for men, there are conditions that are requirements for you to get love, and it is facts. Right. I was like, there are requirements. As a man, you don't get love. The only person who loves you unconditionally as a man, hopefully, is your mom
or your dog. Honestly, your mom. Some people got shitty moms out there. Let's be honest.
Like I said, hopefully. But other than that,
the
rest of the world has conditions for you to get what you want and to get that, love and respect.
Right.
Even that baseline respect.
Right.
Is there are requirements that you have to fill to get that now.
And to bring that up, shit, man, that's heavier than we're actually going to be able to have time to give it credit for, because there's a lot of men that are raised by single moms or predominantly their moms, and they try to raise men. Not saying that women don't have a hand in raising men, but it is hard for a woman to raise a man the way a man maybe should be raised, because they're looking at it from an aspect of, what's the man that I should have got, or what's the man that, or what type of man do I want my sons to be? Because like my parents split up, and I was living with my mom damn near my entire life. I always saw my dad, but there is a piece that's missing when you don't have a man in the house.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do probably a whole video.
Yeah, that'll be a whole other thing, man. But
that can get,
you know what I'm saying.
We can be here all day talking about that.
Exactly,
that
but she impressed upon us, me and my brother, that She was trying to raise men.
Yeah.
And I can see as an adult where there were spots where she was lacking. For the most part, it was just tough love.
Yeah.
And I was actually that kid who like wanted to hug people all the time and like make people smile and all that type of shit. But like there was a hardening aspect to it that my dad, even when I was with him, he didn't really impress upon me. You know what I'm saying? He was more about use your mind, think, be a leader, but do it through your actions. You don't have to be, walking around as pronouncing that you're top dog. Just be top dog and people will recognize that.
Yeah.
Now, but like we'll get into that's a whole other conversation. So we can move on.
That one will get real.
Yeah.
You guys are gonna
hey.
Right. All right. So our third one for this one is: do not under any circumstances depend on a partial feeling.
Right. So there are millions of voices, both inside and out, that telling us what to do. It's often hard to determine what desires are sincerely our own. If you're not sure what to do, wait, become quiet. In stillness, and silence speaks. This is major. Even for the first of 21, this is probably one of the ones that's most important, because this is about intuition. This is about your gut feeling, and you need to be able to be in a position where you can sit down with yourself, with your thoughts, and figure out and kind of just sift through everything that's kind of running through your mind. Because honestly, a lot of our thoughts are not our thoughts. And that's something that's heavy as well, because it's society, it's our family, it's our friends, it's even ourselves that we put a lot of this negativity on us, a lot of these requirements and things like that. But what is it that you want? What are you trying to do with your life and your effort and your energy? Is it going to be something positive? Are you being distracted and kind of going down that negative route where you are giving into all these impulses, especially with escapism, because it is so popular to go to the bar and go smoke with your friends, or do drugs and all these influences and all that stuff, and pornography. And it's just there's always constantly something that is telling you you're either fucking up, or you're not doing things right, or you're less than, whether you're a man or a woman. How do you feel about yourself? How is it that you are maneuvering through this world? And you need to have time to yourself to be able to sit and say, okay, this is bullshit. This is bullshit. This is actually good. Let me take this and figure out what I can do with this. What is it? What are these positive thoughts or circumstances that I'm trying to create? And what can I do with that? How can I move forward in a way that I can push out the rest of these negative influences and cultivate what I see as positive and just move forward with that?
Yeah. And see, I didn't even think about it in that way. And this is why, having other guys around you is so important, because you get different perspectives on it. Because I went a whole different direction with it. For me, I saw it as emotions are temporary. You should never make permanent decisions off a temporary feeling.
Yes.
It's like, and for me, a big huge example of that is like suicide. It's a major thing. The number of men committing suicide now is exploded.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and it's unfortunately, like I said, I've been there myself on multiple occasions, and not just with family and friends, but with myself. And realizing, and I heard somebody once say, is like, don't make a permanent decision off a temporary feeling.
Right.
And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I was like, it's so true. It's so true. How many times it's how we end up in jail. It's how guys end up in jail, because they're making a permanent decision to go out. Some dude, you felt like some dude disrespected you, stepped on your shoes, talked to, holler at your girl, whatever, whatever it may be, blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, a guy's making a permanent decision, get in a fight. Next thing you know, someone ends up dead. And who's going to jail? That guy who temporarily had that feeling of anger or sadness or whatever it may be, and turned around and fucked around and made a permanent decision based off of that, that's going to change his life forever. From that point on, your life is not going to be what it was before, what it could have been. You've made a totally permanent decision now based off of something you felt temporary. Like, you had just sat and waited like 2 minutes, you wouldn't feel that way anymore. I mean, or guys, guys even dealing with women, it's like, that's a major one. where guys faces like I'm temporarily feeling this feeling of, damn, she's fine.
Right.
Ooh, look at her, not thinking ahead about like, but yeah, would she be a good wife? Would she be a good mother? Would she be this? Is she adding to my life, or is she taking away, or is she just a hot thing? It's like that booty's boom, and the lips are boom,
right.
And I'm gonna go get that. Next thing you know, boom, you got a baby.
Right. Stop thinking with your dick.
With a crazy chick. I've seen this play out. Lately, has happened to me. I've skirted it a couple of times. I'll be honest about it. Where I'm like, I look back, I'm like, whoo, that would have been fucking terrible.
Right.
But a lot of guys.
It don't take much either.
No, a lot of guys. 10 seconds for some of y'all. No shade. I'm not throwing any shade.
Right.
It's like sometimes it's good like that.
Right.
But
and that's her fault.
But
it's not your fault. That's her fault.
Got that box.
Right.
But it's a temporary feeling. That temporary, temporarily, poof, all the blood leaves the brain and goes right here.
Right.
Right. But it's a temporary thing, and because of that, you didn't make a smart decision because you thought you fed in that feeling so much, and you didn't do any more thinking about this other than like, I'm gonna get in on this.
Right.
Whether it be, like I said, the sex thing, or anger, or sadness, like I said, all of these can lead to very easily a permanent decision that alters your life. And it goes the opposite way too. It's like, that, you can make great decisions to alter your life for the better. Not having a guy disrespect you and not feeling like you got to go fight this guy's like,
right.
You know what? Okay, I got mad for a second. Let me sit and think of this for a sec. Hold on. Let me process this. Okay, does this shit really matter? Okay, he disrespected me. Who the fuck is he? Does he matter? Is he important in my life? Does he pay my bills?
Right.
Is this gonna matter when I go home tonight at all?
Right.
Is him talking to my girl gonna matter when I'm at home with her and he's at home, doing his
right?
Is any of this gonna matter at the end of the night? But fast forward a week from now, are you still gonna be mad about that thing?
Right.
Then it doesn't really fucking matter.
He's probably going through his own thing as well.
Exactly.
It's got nothing to do with you.
Exactly. Leave it alone. And you just take. I promise you, if you implement this, is one of those things that will just help. This has probably saved me from going to jail multiple occasions. If you just sit with that feeling for just 60 seconds, 1 minute,
take a breath,
sit with that second, breathe, just breathe, and sit with this, and actually ask yourself this question: does this fucking matter? Does him, me feeling him like he disrespected me, does it fucking matter at the end of the day? Does, her being fine, but me, knowing that she's crazy and everything like that, her offering me something is like, does this add value to my life? It's like, right. is this going to be a year from now? Is this going to be a good decision, or am I going to regret this shit?
What did J. Cole say? Like, can she read? I guess she's fine, but can she read? Like, let's be honest.
What that brain do?
Exactly. Like, yeah, you make me feel
now
good.
What that mouth do?
You might not even.
Now what the mouth do?
Right.
What that brain do?
Like you might realize like the first couple of words that come out of her mouth, you don't even like this girl. Like, yeah, she's fine, but you don't.
Post-nut clarity.
Post-nut clarity is real, bro. Oh my, it's one of the realest things on earth. It's for real. You will get done doing your thing, and it's just like.
And you will look at her, you be like, ooh,
right.
You ever woke up and like there was a full moon. And you roll over, and she's not there anymore, and you find her outside howling at the moon.
It's like
That's your fault.
Exactly. Like you just
we call that post-nut clarity.
Right. Just breathe. Take a second to breathe. Figure out what your next 2 moves is. If you can't think 5 moves ahead, think 2 moves ahead. Like, okay, what happens after this? Are we gonna go get something to eat? Do I plan on kicking her out? Like, are we gonna have an actual fucking conversation? If none of that crosses your mind, you're just thinking about hitting.
You're not thinking clearly.
Move on, bro.
You're not, just like with fighting. It's like the whole point. The biggest thing that teaches you fighting is don't get angry.
Right.
Don't let your emotions take control over you. It's Bruce Lee said in his movie. It's like. Not anger, emotion. Emotion and anger are 2 different things.
Right.
It's like emotion. You want to be emotionally invested. That doesn't mean angry. That doesn't mean sad. It's
right.
Like, but if you can't,
emotional content.
Like I said, you can't think of your next 2 steps after this process. Like, okay, if I this dude disrespected me, if I hit him and knock him out, what happens after that?
Exactly.
It's like okay. He's like, okay, so somebody calls the cops. What happens after that? He falls. I hit him. I knock him out. He falls. He hits it on the sidewalk. What happens after that?
He dies.
If you can't think at least 2 steps ahead, you're not clear at all. You don't need to do anything.
Right.
It's like, oh, she's fine. She's looking at me. Okay, if I go over there, it's like I've heard things about her. What's the next move after that? If I go and I go talk to her, what's the next move?
I've actually done that.
If I go after the sex, after the sex is amazing. Okay, cool. But what after that?
Mm-hmm.
What do it's
got nothing in common.
I got to go to the clinic,
right?
It's like,
these days,
it's like what's the next move? If you can't think two moves ahead, you got to think about. We got to start playing chess, not checkers.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able to think 2 moves ahead in this, no matter what's going on. Don't let your emotions dictate and make you make a permanent decision on a temporary situation or a temporary emotion.
That goes with. We'll wrap it up here with that goes into self-observation. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to recognize what your faults are in those kind of situations. And it does take, again, sitting down, figuring out, all right, what are my triggers? And I know trigger itself is a triggering word for some people, but it's like, what is it that triggers me? And when I'm in these situations, what is my natural reaction? And it's differentiating what your reaction is from your responses, because you can have a knee-jerk reaction to somebody bumping into you, talking to your girl, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But how are you going to respond to those triggers? Reaction is immediate. That's the short term. Long term is that's what we're talking about. That response is, all right, what happens after whatever my initial reaction is? If it's bad, move on. Figure out what the correct response is. If you don't know how to do that, look it up.
What's the outcome you want?
What's the outcome that you want from this? You can feel bad in the moment, or you can feel like the toughest guy in the moment, or you can feel like you're a pimp, or whatever the thing is. But you need to figure out what happened. What is the end result? What is the end goal of this situation?
Even if you're in the middle of a fight, you still have to be thinking about that. It's like, because if I'm fighting a guy, how far do I want to take this?
Right.
Is this one of those situations where we're just gonna fight, get a little bloody, and call it good, we walk our separate ways? Or is this one of those situations where only one of us can walk away?
Right.
That's a choice you have to be willing and able to make in those situations.
Right.
You have to know how far you're willing to take this.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, are you willing to go to jail for this? Is it worth it to you?
Right.
Are you willing to die for this? Is that worth it?
Want to go sit in the box?
Are you willing to spend the next 18 years dealing with this woman if something happens?
Yeah.
Is it worth it to you?
Right.
That's the question.
Right.
Is it worth it?
And that 18 years, that's a misnomer, because it's
that's a short.
If you have a baby mama or a baby daddy, that is the rest of your life. That kid is always going to need something. That's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So for sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so these, like I said, these 3 are the first 3 that we're getting into. It's the first 3 of the Dokkodo. And, like I said, it's valuable. So, the takeaways we have is, 1, think. Take time, take that 60 seconds.
Right.
You can give any situation 60 seconds.
Right.
Even in the middle of a fight, some dudes bucking at you. Just take 60 seconds while he's, running his mouth and just think. Be like, okay,
let him talk.
It seems like this fight. It seems like we're about to fight. This is worth it.
Right.
Is it even worth fighting this dude? Is the situation doesn't even warrant that? Is it worth my time to fight? I really have that thought. It's like, is it really worth my time fighting this dude?
Right.
Most of the time I'm like, no.
Right.
This isn't even going to be a good fight. This isn't even going to be a good fight. Yep. It's like, so it's not worth my time. Take that 60 seconds and actually breathe and think about your next result.
Right.
In any situation, any decision you're about to make that could be, highly elevated emotionally, take that time and actually breathe and think through what are the next 2 steps that are going to come after this situation, whether it goes good or whether it goes bad.
Right.
Take assessment, and that goes into figuring out where you are at this moment.
Accept everything as it is.
Accepting everything as it is.
Even in conflicts, it's not good or it's not bad. I know that's hard to wrap your head around sometimes, because sometimes things just really feel bad.
Yeah.
But you really just have to accept things for what they are and then figure out your way out. Again, it's mastering your responses, not so much being reactionary.
And some shit you just gotta let go. Some shit you just gotta let go. I'll tell you this, and we can finish out. I've definitely wish I walked away from more fights than I wish I had gotten into.
Right. Facts. But all right, guys. So that is, like we said, the first 3 principles of the Dokkodo. We definitely be on the lookout on our social media. We're going to be breaking this down in different ways as well, individually. So you can find us on YouTube, Instagram. We're working on the TikTok.
Twitter, hopefully here.
Twitter, hopefully, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Facebook.
Facebook. Make a Facebook group for these as well, and
anywhere we find podcasts.
Yep, and then send us if you have questions about these things, we can go into it a little deeper as well. But just remember, fight your fight. We're all in this together, and this is about self-mastery first and foremost.
All right, guys. So
peace.
You guys take it easy. We are the Warriors Way Home, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Take it easy. Peace out.